Police say the Scottsdale man got stuck right about here on these tracks. The vehicle.
In other news tonight, a Phoenix Valley mother will learn her punishment next month after she's found guilty of murdering her daughter.
The man began waving the 12-inch weapon around at the customers. Today, we talked to some of those folks who are waiting in line. An Amber Alert has been issued for the 6-year-old missing Amanda, last seen playing here on this playground.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Monique Lopez. In Baltimore, Maryland, leaders are working to restore law and order.
Today, the jury in the Jodi Arias trial was finally handed the case and began deliberations.
President Obama speaking out this morning after the night of violence, saying there is just no excuse for it.
Luckily, the quick-thinking driver and a very good Samaritan were able to push the car off the tracks.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Monique Lopez. A warning for you this morning if your or a loved one is flying in or out of the airport.
A man with a large knife walked into this post office demanding to speak to a manager. Jodi Arias has spent an astonishing 16 days on the stand for her capital murder case.
With the trash. The man says his severed leg was thrown in the garbage with his name tags still on it. Firefighters have had their hands full battling a fire that ripped through an apartment complex early this morning. The blaze happened around 2:45 a.m., and although there are no injuries, it has left as many as a dozen people looking for new homes. The fire has been contained, but there is still a heavy presence of firefighters here on the scene to ensure some hot spots aren't reignited. While fire crews are working tirelessly to make sure of that, we heard from some of the tenants who awoke to these roaring flames and are pretty shaken up.
Yes, they just screamed, "There's a fire, get out." I mean, everybody heard the pounding on the door. Everybody was just laying there and then was abruptly woken up to the pounding.
For others like Mia Carter, the blaze quite literally hit much closer to home.
I'm laying on my sofa and I hear this big crash, which sounded like outside of my patio, so I get up and I see this big red light.
The fire started in the apartment directly above her on the second floor. She says the man living in that apartment thinks the fire may have started in the kitchen while he was sleeping. The actual cause of the fire is still under investigation. One resident we talked to, who happens to have been a firefighter in Kentucky, spoke to us about speculations of the building not having firewalls.
What a firewall does, it actually stops a fire from being able to jump from one side of the building to the other. And if these buildings don't have them, then I'm moving my family out of here.
Moving is what many of the residents who resided in the estimated 10 apartments that were completely destroyed will be forced to do. Clutching onto the few items she was able to grab, Mia struggles with the realization of having to start over.
Trying to figure out where do I begin, because just starting over.
Again, we're being told that the fire has been contained aside from a few hot spots. Everyone is safe and crews are now on the scene investigating the cause. Back to you.
Today, Newswatch was granted exclusive access into the very courtroom where the extremely rare questioning by a jury took place, making today's questions, out of all of the previous questions Arias has had to face, the ones that just may matter the most.
In an almost unprecedented event, members of the jury got their chance to question the alleged murder. And question did they. Today, the jury submitted over 100 questions that Judge Sherry Stevens read aloud to Arias, one by one.
Ms. Arias, please take the stand. This is the time set for the court to ask the questions you have submitted.
Like 2 or 3 feet extra.
The questions asked implied the jury was not quite convinced by Arias's version of events.
If you shot Travis first, how did the casing land on blood?
I don't believe it landed on blood when the gunshot went off.
Overruled. You may continue.
I do know that we struggled, so something could have happened subsequent to that, but to my knowledge, there was no blood in that bathroom before the gunshot went off.
After you shot Travis, why not run out of the house to get away?
After I shot him, I didn't know that I shot him.
Overall, it appeared jurors were skeptical and trying to grasp the concept of how Arias can remember so many other specific details, but not the actual killing.
Why is it that you have no memory of stabbing Travis?
I can't really explain why my mind did what it did.
With their very last question finally being asked, Arias's life is now solely in the jury's hands. I'm Monique Lopez, reporting for Newswatch. A group of pedestrians were hit by a car here downtown on Broadway early this morning. This has been an ongoing issue here, and with Broadway being the city's heart of the entertainment and nightlife scene, known for drawing hundreds of people, it has many questioning whether it is even safe to drive through the street or simply just be walking around there. Police say the 4 victims, 2 men and 2 women, were struck by the vehicle just before 3 o'clock this morning while illegally crossing the street. Witnesses and surveillance cameras in the area confirm this.
Preliminary evidence indicates that the pedestrians walked out in front of traffic. Officers have viewed surveillance video from 2 of the businesses down here on Broadway. We'll be collecting those later. And they've spoken with several witnesses who indicate that the pedestrians stepped out in front of traffic without looking.
The 4 were taken to the hospital where they are being treated for non-life-threatening injuries. Alcohol was not a factor in the accident and charges are not expected against the driver. The officer also told us that many people constantly cross on Broadway outside of the crosswalk and cannot stress enough how important it is to use the crosswalk set in place here. It is the safest precaution pedestrians can take to increase the chances of being seen by motorists. Back to you at the news desk. It was a perfect day in a local area neighborhood. That is until gunshots were fired after a man pulled out his gun and shot a dog in broad daylight. Emotions are running high and neighbors here are outraged. Residents in this otherwise pet-friendly Eastside town community were left stunned and in fear for their own pets after the shooting of their neighbor's dog Wednesday afternoon.
And I've got dogs myself, and I had never really thought that there was any threat to life, limb, or property.
Milo, the 10-year-old Jack Russell Terrier that was shot, had managed to slip out of his owner's fenced-in yard. It is a law that dogs remain on a leash when out, but according to witnesses, Milo had gotten loose for only a second before his owner quickly ran after him. The Jack Russell Terrier took off through this alley behind his Forest Avenue home when he encountered a man walking 2 dogs. Just as Milo's owner, who was right on his tail, tried to pull his dog away, it was too late. The man pulled out a gun and shot the owner's longtime pet as the owner stood there, watched, powerless to do anything to stop it. The tragic confrontation has incensed the entire neighborhood.
And the owner was there, and whoever had shot the dog discharged the firearm while someone was in the vicinity, which to me seems pretty reckless.
Others, on the other side of the proverbial fence, undoubtedly with a much less popular stance on the incident, feel it is the right of any person to protect him or herself in the event any dog, regardless of size or breed, roams free without restraint.
There's a law on dogs, and a whole lot of dogs have mauled people almost to death, and dogs have killed people. That's why people so, tense on that now.
Meanwhile, Bill Hardin believes the size and breed of a dog definitely does determine the course of action a person takes in defending themselves.
Well, it depends. If it's a Jack Russell Terrier, I hate to say it, but a swift kick to the butt probably would have ended that.
While that may have been true, Hardin does understand how overpowering an animal can be and agrees with the need to protect oneself from a dog by any means necessary, if and when the situation warrants it. However, he believes that is a judgment call only we humans can and should be able to make fittingly. Unfortunately, because of Milo's extensive injuries, his owner had no other option but to put him down at the vet. A police report was filed against the shooter, but as of yet, no charges have been filed. And on a possibly lighter end to this story, we have just learned that the man who killed the dog went to the owner's home today and apologized. Back to you.